So globalization. According to me, globalization is a process of conducting any activity across the national border. It can be in terms of business, economy, or culture. So if we talk about business globalization is like expanding your business internationally by partnering with any of the global brands. And if we talk about economic globalization, it's like dependence of your economy on the outer world. It's like whatever is happening in the outer world, it's affecting your economy. And yes, about cultural globalization. Cultural globalization is like exchange of your views, values, or maybe ideas that will affect the social relationships of the two countries.
According to me, globalization is a process of interacting and integrating among the people, companies, governments of different nations. As the world is becoming increasingly interconnected, so there is an exchange of trade and cultures. The process in which the national and the regional economies, societies and cultures have become integrated through the global network is also called the globalization, which has resulted in the increased international trade, and a company which is operating more than one company and a country, and communicating. Globalization is also communicating and sharing each other's views, thoughts, cultures through travel and trade. Transporting products around the world is how the what I can say that is also how the globalization works. So according to me, this is
Globalization. Toyota cars are made by a Japanese corporation, but the chassis of the car are made in England, the engines in Wales, the tires in Japan, the wiring in China, the seatbelts in the Czech Republic, and the headlights in France. Like many goods that we're familiar with, these cars are manufactured in a number of different places in the world. This is an expression of globalization.
The biggest issue with globalization is most of the multinational companies that belongs to the powerful economic countries like US and many countries from Europe. They're exploiting the natural resources of the weaker economic countries, especially like Bangladesh, by doing their activities and by using the natural resources, like they're manufacturing their textiles and everything, and they're getting more and more money by selling them in their own countries, and by that they're exploiting the natural resources like water. This leads to the scarcity of water and other natural resources in those countries like Bangladesh. The people who are living in these countries, in the poor economic countries, they are facing many problems as there are scarcity of water, and I hope the UNO has to take some measures to have the control on these powerful economic countries to stop these violent activities of these multinational companies that belongs to the powerful economic countries.
From cars to clothes and electronics, advances in technology have allowed companies to manufacture products wherever in the world it's cheapest to do so. It's called globalization. For people in Europe and the USA, it's brought prices down. And for Bangladesh, it's meant massive industrial growth. But environmentally, it's often been a disaster. Coming up, we travel to Bangladesh's slums to discover just how polluting the textiles industry can be and why they pollute. We ask what different governments are doing to get the industry to clean up its act. And in the UK, we find out why going green is saving Axminster carpets a fortune.
When I ask the industrialist, the garment industry owner or the fabrics dyeing owner, so why do you don't set up ETP? They say there's a big competition in the international market. They always ask for cheap rate. So if we set up ETP, we won't able to provide them, cheap clothes. Then we'll lose our money. So we'll lose our business. They will go to the other country. That's why we don't set up EDP and we are polluting the environment.
According to your opinion?
Yes. Well, I think the biggest issue about globalization is that the crime rate is increasing.
Can you explain how crime?
Well, for example, in countries like New Zealand or other countries that are really attractive, the touristic sector is increasing, and that means there are a lot of people, too much people on the same place, and people also when they are traveling they have all the expensive stuff. So there are too many people and the government has no enough resources to protect all these people, and they get robbed because they have all their laptops, their cameras and so on. Yeah.
Can you explain one more for me? Okay. Apart from this, do you have any other issues? Yeah.
Yes, for example, I think that because of the globalization, the competition to the jobs is higher. That means, for example, if you take the United States, they have a lot of factories in all over the world. And when we take, for example, in South America, they have their factories there, they send all their people there. That means that the local people in South America, for example, have less opportunities to get these jobs. This is also a big issue.
Negative impact.
Yes, yes. So this is my opinion, the two biggest.
Some issues which the people of Germany, like issues related to globalization over there?
Yeah, I can tell you something. I worked for 5 years in a chemical company back in Germany.
A chemical company?
Yeah, it was a chemical company, and we have half of our population was Muslim, so there was Turkish. So that means normally you have to find a lot of Turkish people in the company, but it wasn't like this. Most of the Muslims you can find in the company were not really strict with the religious and with the culture things. So probably for the female Muslims the problem could be that in all the German companies the team events are likely to drink alcohol together or having fun together, like wine events and something like that. Perhaps this could be a barrier for all the female Muslims to work in a company in Germany.
Right.
Yeah. And
can you describe about some particular culture attributes or the language barriers over there, the basic language barriers?
Yeah, a lot of the Turkish people are not willing into the German language. That's mostly a problem. But I think it's common that they're learning German in Germany, and I think it could be
to tackle with the language barriers. One can translate all the relevant languages. Like there are several free websites that are that can translate the language or text from one language to another, so that one can be easily understand the particular language that he can't understand. And another one is the use of an interpreter. There can be someone who can know both the languages and can also help us to convey our message to us to the person who doesn't know the language. So one can be our interpreter that can help us in the language. And another one is the language class. The company should provide the language classes to the employees who won't understand the language, and also provide the English tests. Like there are many tests like IELTS test and many other tests which can improve their language proficiency. So another one is the company can provide the visual methods of communication. like they can show the pictures or the videos in which they can understand the languages and the signs, by which they can easily catch the language they don't know how to speak. So another one is the last one is the company can use the simple words to convey the messages to the employees who don't understand how to speak the other language. Like they should not use the complex words and the high vocabulary, so they can use simple words to make them understand their language.
The increase in the crime rates can be tackled by implementing the already existing law and better monitoring of the local communities. And I feel so the concentration of people in a particular city can be diverted and controlled by having better, for example, like the Immigration New Zealand has awarded the extra point if one who want to work and study outside the Auckland city, and if you work and study in South Island, so you have an extra point. So this can decentralize the population and it also can tackle the crime rate. And the second point is the competition can be avoided. For example, like the government, the New Zealand government evaluates the market before any foreign brand comes into the New Zealand market, and so that the basic motto of the New Zealand government is to uplift the local people and the local community so that they are not being neglected, and it is a win-win situation for the government as well as for the foreign brands. So this is how we can tackle. There are various ways we can tackle.
Related to globalization, environmental impacts of globalization on certain countries, government can implement certain wastage plants like ETPs, water treatment plants, that can so that the water that the large companies use can be treated and used for irrigation purposes within the local communities, and so the water is not dumped out and it doesn't impact the environment with the chemicals and all the waste waters. So also strict policies must be imposed so that the local communities are not exploited. And some of the other issues include when larger international companies penetrate the local markets, it tends to sideline the smaller industries, smaller indigenous companies. So there should be strict policies imposed by the government that would tackle these issues, mainly by, for example, the government of India has a policy that when a foreign company penetrates the market, the smaller companies have to integrate and create a joint venture between the smaller and the larger companies, so that all the revenue generated is not exploited. It doesn't go out of the country and stays within the local communities, and certain percentage of the revenue goes out of the country. And so the local population must not be exploited.
I'm here to talk about the impacts of globalization on hotel industry. As you can see, the live impact is like the impact of the Hilton brand in New Zealand. That's one of the positive impacts of globalization. And nowadays, people tend to travel. The travel has become more cheaper, so people are traveling a lot. So you need it has boosted the travel and tourism industry. It has also impacted the hotel industry. Okay, now when people are moving out more, and so you need more people to cater to them. This is in turn, this has created a lot of more jobs. It has created a lot of employment for the local people. And the third thing what I wanted to tell you is about the technological advancement in the hospitality due to the globalization has replaced the manual operating procedures. So this is one of the manual operating procedures have been replaced by the technological advancement like software. It has eased the work for the employers as well as for the employees. And as I mentioned about the positive, I would like to put some light on the negative impacts as well. So the negative impacts is like you can see like nowadays seasonal tourism is also one of the major factor which has impacted the hotel industry in a negative way. Like you can see, the New Zealand is one of the countries which has been affected by the seasonal tourism. So it has created less jobs, and only the hotel does good only the seasonal seasonal period. And the second most is like the economic slowdown of the major economies like US and China has a huge impact on the hotel industry. So because these are the countries which boost on a global level. And the third point which I would like to highlight here is the domestic brands have been sidelined because of the international brands. The essence of the domestic brands have somewhere got vanished because of the globalization. I think so this is not fair for the domestic brands. This is somewhere affecting the essence of the domestic brands and the values of the